Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. Employees at the Halifax bank can now have their pronouns added to their name badges. After the company shared an image of the new name tags on Twitter, it sparked a backlash. But the bank responded and said that if customers didn't agree, they should close their accounts, which some apparently now have. Here to discuss this, I'm pleased to be joined by social commentator Mo Lovatt from the Academy of Ideas. Thanks for joining me. Why are people offended by the idea of someone's got something on a badge?
Well, I don't know about you and people in the audience, but whenever I come across these issues, I think, what does the average person who's not on Twitter and isn't embroiled in the culture wars, and they open their newspaper on the bus in the morning and they see pronoun badges that Halifax has made their kind of column inches. But for those of us who have been embroiled a bit in the culture war, we know it's not just about pronouns on badges, that it is much more about the gender ideology war and the war between people who say that biological sex is real and that men and women and the differences between them are important, and those who say no, it's much more about how you want to identify and what your gender identity is. And so what Halifax are doing by asking shall we say asking or insisting, we can maybe come on to that question in a minute, about the inclusion of pronoun and badges, is part of a wider thing where it's making the acceptance that people can choose their gender identity part of kind of how we see the world. And what they've said officially is that they wanted to open a conversation about gender identity. But that's rubbish, isn't it? Because as soon as somebody opened a conversation about gender identity, they shut the conversation down. They said, if you don't like our policy, you can go and bank elsewhere. So much for opening the conversation. It's agree with us or go and bank somewhere else, which is extraordinary, isn't it, for a corporate organisation to say, if you don't like our values, you can go elsewhere.
Although, to be fair, they're not the bank that likes to say yes. So they set out their stall in that department. A couple of things to talk about there, then, is the versions of this I read in a few newspapers say that it is an option. It's not that anyone has to have their pronouns or insist that they have to or feels pressure that they can if they want to. It's a massive difference. If it is true that it's just a choice, it is a huge difference from forcing everyone who works for your organisation to have their pronouns written on things.
Yes. Would you like to be the one person in the bank branch that says, I don't want to wear a pronoun badge? Those of us who've been, sort of campaigning or kind of discussing, sex matters conversations, we know that it goes a long way from saying, I don't subscribe to gender ideology. It doesn't go very far to calling you an outright transphobe, which I think very few people are transphobic, actually. I think that's one thing to say. I'm certainly not. But it's about whatever happens at the ideological realm, there are actually material implications for predominantly women, actually, in terms of single-sex spaces and things that women have campaigned for. So it's not just a kind of at the level of ideology and the way we think. It is actually kind of part of material. It has material implications as well.
So do you think